Hey everyone, this is Laura Figures, your host of the Freedom Isn't Free podcast. Today we have a special guest, Iyea Brandy. She is a licensed professional therapist and the founder of My Therapist is Black. Welcome, Iyea. How are you?
I am doing great. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm so excited about this topic and us diving in. I've had some guests previously that just touched on the tip of things. But I
Okay.
think today, us diving in and having a deep conversation and people really understanding, maybe what is therapy, with the basics. So let's start there. What is therapy?
Therapy is different for everybody. We have play-based therapy, which actually adults can engage in play-based therapy. It's just using play-based, the idea of play, right? Being fun and loose. And, we use that with adults as well. You have art therapy, which is instead of talk therapy, you sit down, you get your paper, your color pencils, whatever, and you basically draw out where you are right now, your emotions or whatever's going on. And then we have talk therapy, right? And talk therapy is your typical, you think of like Sigmund Freud and people like that, where, somebody's laying on the couch, right? That's the vision most people have.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, people digging into your head. That's the thought. But really, a therapist is like the passenger in your car, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are the driver. You are the authority on your life. You know what's best. The therapist is just there to help you and say, okay, if you're going to the airport, if you take this route, it'll probably be better for you and faster than if you take this route, right? The therapist is coming along with you on this journey. So therapy looks different for each person, just depending on what type of therapist they go to. And then within talk therapy, we have specialization. We have, cognitive behavior therapists. We have rapid eye movement therapists. And some therapists practice more than one modality. Then you have your therapists who practice like wellness as a overall, care. So they may have talk therapy, but they may also encourage you to do some other things outside to, to help you to heal, so that they're focused on your total wellness. So therapy looks different for everybody.
It does. I think that, our military service members, veterans, and their families, I think therapy should be something that's given and talked about and is welcomed, because therapy is with the things that they have to go through and the things that they see that the normal civilian would not see. I think therapy is absolutely needed.
I totally agree with you. And I think it's how therapy is presented. I'm not really sure what the VA offers, even though I have friends who are veterans, right? I'm not really sure what the VA offers in terms of therapy. Is it only talk therapy? Is it art therapy? What exactly the VA offers? But I do know that veterans need choices. They need to have like a menu where they can kind of choose from and go through different things. And one type doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah, I think that definitely the VA needs to step up and provide these different options of therapy. Folks are suffering, kids are suffering. I know when I was, my mom is retired, but I'm a military brat. And so I know therapy would have probably been something that I would have gone through when my mom went overseas, and she went during the Iraq, Afghanistan wars. I had anxiety and I was in college, and I didn't know what was going on, like why I couldn't focus, why I couldn't, I just constantly had my mom on my brain and my siblings on my brain, because we were all spread out through the United States because my mom had to go overseas. So I know probably art therapy, me like expressing that through art therapy probably would have been really good for me. Um, Tell me some ways about art therapy, and because I know about the talk, right? Tell me
Yeah.
about the art therapy. Explain to me how children, um, how that works for kids. Like talk to me about it, because I'm interested in it.
Art therapy and play-based therapy are very popular for kids, right? So art therapy, if there is no do it this way, don't do it this way. You just literally you give the person the color pencils or whatever it is in the paper, and you just tell them to create. And what the brain tends to do, it tends to create what it's thinking about, the emotions that's
Mm-hmm.
happening at the
Yeah.
time.
Mm-hmm.
And so the art therapist then don't need for you to say, you know what, I'm really stressed because I'm concerned about my mom and I'm not sure what's, you know what I'm saying, what's happening. She don't need to say that because somewhere on your paper that's going to come across, right? And so as you draw out these emotions or these scenes or whatever going on, then the art therapist can hone in on them and help you to then process what's happening there. Because at the end of the day, it's one thing to know what's happening, it's a whole nother thing to process and to gain control of
Yeah.
what's happening.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say.
Yeah, I didn't have control at all when I was in college. I was just like, what is going on with me? I couldn't focus. I was failing my classes. I was just like, what is happening? Why is my brain not working and focused on, me going through school? It was focused on, are my siblings okay? Is my mom alive? Because of course I'm not hearing from her. So it was very frustrating during those times for me. What's some advice that you could give for kids that are going through this? And I wasn't a young child. I was a college student going through this. So what are
Yeah.
what's some advice?
So definitely kids of military veterans, even though your mom at the time wasn't a veteran, right? She was active duty.
Mhm.
And I think that's even tougher being active, being a child of an active duty parent, whether you're 5 or you're 25, right?
Mhm.
Because the anxiety and the fear is still there. And so my advice for someone who is actively going through that would be to find a wellness practice, because you need to be grounded. You need to be able to have something that you can do on a regular basis that helps your mind to refocus away from the thought of, is my mom alive? What's going on? I haven't heard from her. How much longer, right? So you have to have a wellness practice. One thing that I absolutely practice in my sessions with my clients is mindfulness, right? People tend to think of mindfulness as meditation. I don't meditate. I'm not going to lie. I don't meditate like people think that, I meditate. I cannot sit still for long enough for my brain to wander and go over there. But I am mindful, right? So, for example, in my office, my backyard looked like a forest. I will literally stare out the window and do some deep breathing and just picture myself out there, you know what I mean? Being part of nature, being one with nature, and that grounds me. So I think, especially for you who was in college, college is tough, right? And then now you're worried about mom, you're worried about siblings. I think a good mindfulness practice would have been really great for you. Something that you could do every day to not to ignore the feelings, but to put it aside to allow you to get on with life, in the moment by moment. That would be my advice.
Yeah. So I guess let's transition then now to the soldiers that are fighting, that are going through
Whew.
war, that are doing just deployments. I mean, what are some of the therapies and things that they can help, while they're out there, how to cope? Because this is a lot what they see on a daily basis versus us.
Yeah. I think for active duty members, I actually wrote some stuff down. I think for active duty members, there needs to be different kind of therapy. So, we have cognitive behavior therapy, which everybody knows of. It's, you change your thought, you change your behavior, right? You change how you do. But I think cognitive processing therapy works. And so when you go through that, right? Basically what it is the therapist helps you with the negative thoughts, right? That's related to the event. And then they help you to understand what's happening and to replace those thoughts. So, I can't imagine what that is like to have your life on the line every second while you are actively deployed. So you have to come up with a way to be able to change those negative thoughts, because you're thinking about your wife, your kids, your parents, your whoever that you left behind. Am I going to make it back to these people? And then something that we don't think about is, what about all those active duty members that come back home with severe physical illness that has happened to them? They've lost a leg, they've lost limbs, they've lost things that, now they're back home, but you've lost something that you took with you before, right? So how do you get past that? a lot of this is replacing the negative thoughts with ones that are common and that you can help cope. And then we have like rapid eye movement. And what that does is it desensitizes you from the stimulus that caused you to have the stress and anxiety. So I think that, you know, meditation definitely helps for those periods of time that they can calm the mind down, because I can't imagine my brain being on 24/7, because that's what's happening,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So you have to be able to calm the mind down. You have to be able to. There are points, and I've never been, you know, active duty or anything, but there are points in my life where I had to go to sleep listening to calm meditative music because my anxiety was getting the best of me, right? So now imagine someone who anxiety is part of their daily routine,
Mm-hmm.
because if they're not hyper vigilant, they may not make it back to their families. So you have to find a way to calm the brain down. The brain is a muscle. How you use it will determine how your body will respond. So you have to sort of trick the brain into thinking, you know what, we're going to be fine. So let's find a way for us to calm down, right? And we can handle that in an hour. We can handle that in 2 hours. And for these people who are going on tours, the active duty members who are going on tours back to back to back to back, right? Some people did Afghanistan, Iraq. Like those were two horrible wars.
Yes.
Okay. So I think that they need like a retreat. I don't think the VA pays for that, but it would be good to have a healing retreat when a soldier first come home, right? Don't send them back to their family. Send them to this healing place. You know how we have like these what do you call these things? Like I call it the bougie, like drug addicts, right? They go to like Malibu and they get like, you know what I mean?
They go
All
to
these
this nice rehab center that's like
yes.
laid out in luxury, and yes,
Exactly. What if we did that for our soldiers?
yes,
What if they were to get nutritionists there, to prepare them food to help the body to heal, right? You
absolutely.
had a chiropractor to do adjustments, a massage therapist. You had an art therapist there, a talk therapist if they wanted to talk. A play-based therapist to kind of play out what's happening in the brain. What if you had that, even if it was just for 3 to 4 days? What if we sent our soldiers there to decompress before sending them home?
Mm-hmm.
That would just be a wonderful thing.
That's
But
needed. That is
yeah,
needed.
yeah, that's what's needed. But they don't get that. Even if it was just a silent retreat, you know what I mean? And just help them to reacquaint themselves back to society. But what do? They come home, they go to the base, they clear up, and then they go home. And their families don't know how to deal with them. They
Mm-hmm.
don't understand what's going on with them. They keep it to themselves because they know that nobody can understand the trauma that they've been through, right? And trauma, there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score. Trauma sits in the body and then it gets triggered and stuff happens. So you ever see military veterans and they start to shake, right? They start to tremor. Is because the trauma that is in their body has been triggered by something. And if it's not moved and dealt with, it will stay there and it will always be a part of who they are.
That's everything you just said was powerful, by the way. Like everything that you just said was powerful. Because a lot of people don't know. A lot of people don't know. They don't understand. They don't know where to start. Um, it it's I think therapy is needed, from my understanding. And I, probably should have on a veteran to explain some of the things that when they come back from war. From my understanding, when they come back from war, they're offered therapy,
Mm-hmm.
but the therapy is not like therapy that we spoke of, but they're offered something, and they said most of them don't take it. Um,
Yeah, I read that too. A good 60% of them don't take the therapy. And
and
then
I
a lot
think
of
it should
them
be mandatory.
yeah, a lot of them have to go to the VA too to do the therapy,
Mm-hmm.
which is a problem.
Yep.
Because sometimes that's triggering just being there. You know what I mean? That's triggering just being there. And so you don't want to deal with that. You don't want to see what you already saw for so long. You just want to be somewhere else. So it would be nice if there was, if the VA would just pay for therapy in a way that it creates more opportunities. So I know that the VA pays if you're active duty, you have TRICARE or however way that works. But not all veterans have TRICARE. Some of
No.
them don't have any insurance.
Correct.
And it's like, where are they covered from? And I have a friend, she is a veteran at this point now, right? She's been out the military for probably about 10 years. And what she said to me was, a lot of times she does work a peer to peer where they can come and talk, but they need therapy. She was like, I'm not their therapist. I just, you know what I'm saying? As a peer who's been through the same thing, I can listen. She said,
Relate.
what happens
Yeah.
a lot is that people get money from, the government, and they're supposed to provide these services and they don't provide them. They don't do anything. They just keep the money and they do like the bare bones minimum because no one is checking them. And that's really wrong. These are people who need this service. So if you've got money to provide therapy or, a retreat, do that. Don't be half given what you've gotten plenty of money for. She was like, I can't tell you how many times we went on a so-called retreat and we were given donuts and bagels, and then speakers. Veterans don't want to be spoken at. They want to speak with you. And so that's what we have to realize. These are people who've been through something. They just need a voice. They need you to listen. So that's what would be great for therapy for them. Just have a therapist who understands and just allow them to explore what is really happening in this moment for you.
Yeah, breaking it down so they understand and understand the coping mechanisms to work through when they identify something has triggered me. What do I
Yeah.
need to do? Because I know that's a lot of understanding your triggers.
Yes.
So when it does happen and you're in the moment, you know how to respond appropriately. Because let's be clear, just day before yesterday, there was a soldier that went to a bowling alley and
Mm-hmm.
killed 3 people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like this is what we're speaking about is something that needs to be implemented immediately. Like the Biden administration needs to jump on this because
Yeah.
this
And
is
do
going to
something about
continue to
it.
get out of hand. We have
Mm-hmm.
soldiers now that are coming home, from all sorts of places. Because let's be
Yes,
not
this
just
is
Iraq,
true.
not just
Mm-hmm.
Afghanistan. There's soldiers
Mm-hmm.
that are in Africa. There's soldiers that are in all up in Europe. Okay,
Yeah.
there are missions that are going on that us Americans don't know. We don't understand what's
Mm-hmm.
going on or understand what the mission, and that's not our job to understand the mission. Just understand that when a veteran comes home, that they need to go through a process to decompress about what just happened.
Yeah.
Um,
Because some are still living that moment, by the way.
yes,
Some of them are still living war.
day,
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah, the images. I mean, think about it. You've ever seen something really, really terrible? So I was telling my sister last night, right? When they were younger, they did a play called Once on This Island, and it was a tragic love story, and it stuck with me how tragic this little love story was. And they were like in 7th and 8th grade, right? But we were joking about it because I was thinking about about the podcast, and I was saying to my sister, I said, it's really amazing how the brain works. This memory is imprinted on my brain. So now imagine being a soldier and those memories of death, of destruction, of almost near death experience for you is there. And who teaches you coping skills? The military is not teaching you no coping skills. They're teaching you how to survive because
Correct.
that's what they have to offer you
Correct.
is to
Yes.
survive. So you need to know the triggers and the coping skills. And that's one of the most important things. So yeah, PTSD is a real thing, right? And so you may never fully get over PTSD. But if you know that maybe walking into a bowling alley and hearing the noise triggers you, like we talked about fireworks, if you have your coping mechanism together, you can hit those coping mechanisms, boom, 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 and calm yourself down.
Yes. And I'm glad you highlighted PTSD because some folks, when they hear PTSD, they only associate it with the military. Wrong. Okay, let's be clear what PTSD is. So, can you just highlight what PTSD is for folks that don't know what PTSD? Because it's not just associated with the military. I've had PTSD, which associated to other things that have happened in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But PTSD, everybody has experienced it, probably whether they know it or not. So just give them a little tidbit.
So post-traumatic stress disorder is what it's called. And what it is after you've experienced a traumatic event, your body starts to respond to it in such a way that it keeps the event like it just occurred. So domestic violence victims experience PTSD.
Yes.
Um, People who have been raped and assaulted experience PTSD.
Yes.
People who have been in jail
Yes.
experience PTSD.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So it's not, the military was just where we learned about it, and we were able to put a face to it. But it's any traumatic event that happened in your life that continues to have an effect on you, is what PTSD is. And so I have kids who have PTSD, and I'm talking about like 8 years old, because they've been through something traumatic in their life, right? Whether they've lost a parent, right? Or they've been abused by somebody, and they continue to live in that fear based. You can tell sometimes when people have PTSD too, because like the way they respond to life, right? Some people hide because whatever happened to them, it was because they thought they were being seen. And so they hide and they don't speak up and they cover their voices up because they're still living that trauma. Those pictures, think about PTSD as a bad movie that continues to play and play only in your mind. That's what's happening. And so then how do you get rid of that picture, those thoughts? You have to replace it with something else. But if you're not aware that you have PTSD, you're just going to think, well, you know what? This is normal. This is just what's happening to me. And you keep going with it.
I think people need to understand that PTSD is real. It's associated with mental health. It is something that needs to
Mm-hmm.
be addressed. You know, I want people to know that you're not the only one. There are multiple people that suffer from this, and once you identify it with what's going on with you and that it's happening and what what's triggering it, oh my gosh, your life can be almost set free. I think with me, with my anxiety and my PTSD, I knew what triggered me. I knew what was happening, and
Mm-hmm.
me reliving those moments. I was just like, okay, this is what happened. This is what triggered it. Okay, it could be a touch. It could be,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Words.
yeah, word. It could be anything.
Visiting a situation that from before, right? It
Yes,
may be going into a restaurant that, a smell from a
yes,
food.
a smell from food. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Hmm. People don't think about that. They just think of it one way because most of us are so busy hiding how we feel that we can't let go and feel. Because in this country they tell you not to feel. You're not supposed to feel anything. You're always supposed to toughen up and pull yourself up by your bootstrap and get over it. And those things are very, very harsh for people who are experiencing mental illness, and it's not even necessarily a mental illness, but people who are experiencing a mental breakdown, who are having trouble with their mental health in the moment. You can't tell them to get over it. How do you get over something that is affecting your life and the quality of your life and how you live your life?
And I think in those moments where it's dark and you're in it, you're going through it, right? And the only thing that you are trying to do is to make this stop, this moment stop, this hurting stop, the pain stop, and people start contemplating about suicide.
Yes.
Um, and I think that's when it goes down this dark, deep hallway of now you've turned to the other side of like you want this pain to stop.
Yeah.
Um, what is your insight on people that have gone now down this hallway? They've been going through this trauma in their brain, right? And suicide is now the thought of like, this is the only way I can get out.
Yeah. So people who want to commit suicide don't want to die. They just want the pain to stop. And that's what we have to remember. They don't want to actually not be here. They just don't want the pain to continue, right? It's like having chronic pain in your body. You just don't want it to stop. and you will do whatever it takes for it to stop. And so suicide is the thing that you think of, because emotional pain is not like physical pain. You can't take a Tylenol or Advil to cover up emotional pain. And so when we get to that point where we're experiencing emotional pain to that level, it's time for a real deep dive, right? It's time for you to see a psychiatrist. I'm going to be very honest with you. You might actually need medication to get the brain to turn off, right? So that's one. It's time to have a team of people that can help you to be able to understand, you know what I'm going through right now, I can be healed from it and it will get better, right? But I'm going to have to follow through on so many different steps for it to get there, and one of the things that, people who are contemplating suicide are going through is they believe it will never get better. And they need people to tell them and to show them that it can get better. They need to see examples, right, of people who've been where they are and have gotten better. And I think that that's the most important point. For a lot of people who are contemplating suicide, they actually never say anything.
That's so
They don't say
true.
anything.
That is so true.
They suffer in silence.
In silence, and that is it's the scariest thing, because there's people that know them, see them on
Mm-hmm.
the outside, and they're just this wonderful person.
Mm-hmm.
In the inside, they are destructing, and when they decide and they think these thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's terrifying. It's terrifying that this person even could think that they shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
It's it's
Yeah.
it's it, it's just oh, it's
They
mm,
see no purpose for their life anymore because they're in so much emotional pain. It's like people who go through abuse, right? Who feel like they're just never gonna get out of it,
yeah.
and then they take their life. There was a young lady, I don't know her full story, but I know she was assaulted and she became a advocate for it, and she recently committed suicide because I think someone was stalking her and she had tried to get a restraining order. But what happened in that situation is it's clear she went back to re-experiencing the trauma of what happened before, and she just couldn't take it. And what is unfortunate is not only did she commit suicide, her mom then committed suicide a few weeks or a few months afterwards, because it's a trickle down effect. Because now the mom's going through so much pain, right, of not having her daughter. And it's the same thing that happened to Christophe St. John. His son suffered from mental illness and he committed suicide. And then dad could not take the pain of losing his son. I think it was almost 4 years. He committed suicide. So it's that level of, is it gonna ever get better? Is this pain ever going to, subside? Is it ever gonna go away? And it's finding new ways to live, right? So maybe you will always, I mean, obviously losing a child, I don't wish that on anybody, right? But it's finding new ways to live. It's finding new ways to new places to put your energy. It's finding new things to do. That's what helps for you to be able to heal. It's getting involved with volunteer organizations and doing something for someone else. I, the best thing you could do in this whole life is to be of service to someone else. By being of service to someone else, it helps you to feel better. It's sort of a selfish thing, right? You're supposed to be helping someone else, but it helps you.
Yes.
As people always say, yeah, why are you such a giver? You give, you give. I said, because by me giving, I feel better
Mm-hmm.
because I know I'm making an impact. I'm making a difference,
On
right?
somebody else. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And when you can help someone else come up out of depression, right? Someone else come out of PTSD, someone else come out of pain and trauma, it does something for you. It's like teachers that, yes, we all know teachers don't make no money, but they do it because I used to be a teacher. When you see that light come across that kid's face and they got it, it's like your whole world is like, you're like, you're happy, you know what I mean? And you get those moments every day. And so people who go through that, they need some sort of light. They need something that makes them feel like their life is worth it.
Oh my gosh, you've spoken so many jewels into this. into this. It's just been, you've been a blessing, honestly. You've been more of a therapist for me for these last couple minutes, last 20 minutes for me, because, it 2020, regardless of the coronavirus, it has been
Mhm.
a lot on people
Woo!
financially, spiritually. I mean,
Yes.
I've had a lot of close friends and family members that have passed away this year and not related to corona. So let's
Yeah.
be clear, ladies and gentlemen, 2020 is a year that,
By itself.
yes, and we cannot carry this into 21. So, you know, it's going to be a new year. What are some of the things that people can, starting January 1st, what are we going to do? How are we going to cope with the new year of the 2020 destruction that just happened? How are we going to face 21?
First, I think we have to acknowledge that 2020 was rough, like you just did. We have to acknowledge that maybe we weren't our best because this year was hellish. We have to acknowledge that it's okay that maybe I'm behind in my credit card bills or my card payment or whatever because I just didn't have it. It's okay to acknowledge, you know what? My anxiety has gotten the best of me and I am struggling right now. I can't pick up my phone because I just don't know what to say or what to do. First is acknowledging. Second is reflecting. Reflecting on what was and where we want to be now, right? And then one of the other things I practice is radical gratitude. Radical gratitude is real hard when you first start practicing it, but I started practicing radical gratitude after I lost everything. I mean, I lost everything, relationship, house, money, everything went. And I started practicing radical gratitude. And at first, when my girlfriend told me to start doing it, I was like, you can't be serious. You want me to be grateful for what? But radical gratitude just said, you know what? I may not have, this, but I have this. And I'm grateful for that.
Amen.
I may have lost, family members, but you know what? I have an opportunity to love on the ones that are here. Right? Radical gratitude say, okay, maybe I don't have, money to do this, but I have breath in my body. Right? It's taking the negative and turning it around. It's choosing one thing. And when I first started practicing radical gratitude, I used to say, I'm happy for my 10 toes and 10 fingers.
Yes, yes.
That's all I had.
Yep.
That was just it. But
Yep.
then in time, the more you search the universe, God will give you more of what you are asking for. And so I think that we need to start out 2021 and we can't go back, people, to what we used to do and how we were so selfish and self-absorbed and we didn't have time for each other and you had your career and your family and you didn't remember to call your mom or your whoever, you know what I mean? Like, we can't do that no more. 2020 has taught us that we need each other. We all need each other. So
Yep.
we need to go into 2021 trying to figure out how can we make this world that we live in a better place? What part can you play, no matter how small, to contribute to something that is going to make this world better? And I think when we focus on that, the rest of it will fall into place.
Amen. Can the church say amen? You hear me?
We have to change how we've been doing business. Business can't be back to, you know what I mean? We can't come out of 2020, go into 2021 and, oh, coronavirus is gone and we back to our, no, we have to do things differently. We have to hold each other accountable. We have to give each other grace. And we have to recognize that everybody is not in the same place. And that's okay. If you're there, then do what you need to do while you are there. And know that person needs some time.
You just dropped jewels again. Listen, my therapist is Black now. Where can my listeners connect with you, reach out to you? You've been wonderful dropping these jewels. You're a real therapist, a professional real therapist, y'all. She's not for play. She is a real therapist. Um, Tell my listeners how they can reach out to you.
Well, there's a couple of ways to reach out to me. And just, for the record, if you are looking for a Black therapist, I do have a Black therapist match service. It's free. It's just to be able to find a Black therapist if you need one. Reach out to me on Instagram. I'm at Counseling Diva on Instagram. And I also have the my_therapist is Black page on Instagram. So there's both of them is Counseling Diva on Instagram and my_therapist is Black. And when you reach out to me there, I will send you the link for the therapist matching, Black therapist matching page. Because I do know I have a huge network of Black therapists, and they don't often connect with Black clients because unfortunately we have some corporations who have decided that counseling is very lucrative and they're going to buy out every piece of ad space on the internet. So you go looking for a Black therapist, you're going to find BetterHelp and Talkspace and all these things. And I honestly, you could probably find some good therapists in there, but let's just be truthful. For what they pay the therapist, you're going to get what you're going to get.
Thank you so much for just taking the time out of your day to speak to me and my listeners and being my therapist this morning, because this has been wonderful for me. I needed this morning. I feel like I didn't went to church. I promise you I did. Like I can come and conquer the world today.
I just always want to be of service. That's, my thing.
So thank you so much.
Same here. Thank you for it. This conversation was really great. It just reinforces the fact that we need more services. We need to find a way to do a better job for our veterans because they've given their life for us, and we need to be able to do more for them.
So yes, just like I just said, thank a veteran, thank you. And please, listeners, remember, freedom isn't free. This is your host, Laura Figures, and I'm signing out.